Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make delicate petals for your flowers. I'll be using two different sizes of paintbrushes. This is a silver black velvet size 8, has a little bit wider tip. This is a silver black velvet size 4. I'm using paints made by the Sprout Creative. If you support me on Patreon and you're a tier 3, you should have gotten these in the mail. If not, you should get them shortly. I'll be using Tennessee Blues, Spring Green, and Agave in this video. This one's Tennessee Blues, Spring Green, and Agave. You can use what you have at home. You don't have to have these colors. That's just what I'm using. Just a general household pencil with an eraser, a spray bottle, a paper towel. You'll need some watercolor paper. I've already taped mine down to my artboard. You'll need 2 jars of water. This one doesn't look clean, but it is. My jar is just stained. And I will be using a Darris heat tool. I'll use this to dry my work if I'm trying to work quickly. You can use a hair dryer or you can let it dry naturally. The methods I'm teaching in this tutorial will work for almost any flower you want. I will be using pages 40 and 41 of Flower Doodlestrations. If you are a Patreon member, I will include this on the Patreon page as an attachment. Begin by sketching your flower. You can follow my steps here, you can draw your own, or you can use the directions on pages 40 and 41 of Flower Doodlestrations. Once you're happy with the shape of your flower, I want you to go back through and I want you to completely draw each petal entirely. So we're going to draw each part of the petal that's hidden behind other petals. This petal goes up and around, and right here it's hidden, so we're going to draw that back in. You can pretty much see all of this next petal, but the one behind it is hidden. So we're going to draw that in and go all the way around and draw in the bottom part as well. The next petal, we're just going to continue this all the way around with each petal being checked. When you're finished, make a right parenthesis for the stem. We're going to lightly erase so that we just have a ghosting of our pencil marks. I'm going to place a paper towel over my work so that I can activate my paints. I'm going to wet my brush and get some Tennessee Blues. Put it on my palette, and then I'm going to add water to it until it's a very thin consistency. You want it thin enough so that when you paint with it, it's going to look sheer. Now, because I've been mixing with my brush, it has a lot of paint in it, so I'll dip it in my water to get some of that paint out, and I'll place a small amount on my paper and just get a feel for the transparency of the paint. This looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to continue painting this petal. Just work with it until you get the look you're wanting. Fill the petal in completely. Load just the tip of your brush with more paint and begin to outline the petal. We're going to outline a third time, taking paint just on the tip straight from the cake. We want it pretty saturated for the outline. I like to lift my brush every once in a while so that I get a nice bleed into the center of the petal. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and give your brush a swirl in water. You should still have some paint left in your brush. Skip a petal and go ahead and fill in. Remember, you want it pretty sheer. Go ahead and load the tip of your brush and begin the first outline. Grab paint straight from the cake. Begin the second outline. For this next step, your petals need to still be wet. We're going to rinse our brush completely, load it with clean water, grab a different color. I'm using spring green, and I'm just going to touch the center of each petal. My first two petals were a little on the dry side, and they aren't blending quite like I'd like them to, so I'm just going to re-wet my brush and go over each petal. We're going to continue repeating these steps, making sure to leave space between each petal. I decided to go ahead and drop the spring green into each petal individually instead of 3 at a time. Now I'm going to use my heat gun to dry it. If you're using a heat gun, be sure not to get too close to the paper or hold it in one spot for too long. You can burn your paper. I've done it before. Now that it's dry, we can continue painting our petals just like we did before. We're going to paint the entire petal, which means we're going to overlap the petal next to it. I forgot my spring green on this petal, but I'll come back later and drop it in. I'm going to go back and drop some spring green in both of these petals. Here, I'm just going to darken the outline of these two petals. Last petal. Here I'm going to use a size 4 silver black velvet round brush. If you mess up, like I did here, you can just dab with your paper towel and it removes the excess water. I want to use a clean brush to soften some of the harsher lines. Now it's time for the stem. Just make a smooth, even stroke down your stem line. I decided to add a little bit of agave to the stem, but not the whole thing. Just a little bit right at the bottom. Once your piece is dry, you can remove your tape. I learned a tip from my friend Becky Wilson at Spring Valley Art. If you use your heat gun to warm your tape, it'll prevent your tape from tearing your paper. Always peel your tape away from your paper. In all honesty, I thought I was done with this, and then when I looked at it, I just felt like I wanted to accentuate the petals a little bit more by outlining one last time, and I think it was the right choice. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. That's it, y'all. Isn't that the sweetest little flower? I love how delicate the petals are. And really, it isn't hard to do. It's pretty simple. Please, please, please make sure that if you try this, you show me. And hey, thank you so much for being here.